In today's historiography, the Ottoman Empire is often neglected, even though it was one of the most powerful empires of its time during its heyday in the 16th century. From North Africa to Vienna, the empire encompassed many peoples and cultures before slowly but surely disintegrating and completely disappearing from the map after the First World War. But how did the Ottoman Empire become so large and powerful in the first place? How was the Islamic Empire organized, and what were the reasons for its demise? And what legacy of the Ottoman Empire can still be felt today? Who were the Ottomans anyway? Many of us associate the people with Muslim warriors and a decadent sultan around whom one or the other legend is entwined. But behind the Ottoman Empire was a successful concept of maintaining power for almost 7 centuries, a special political structure, and a unique culture, all aspects that made the Ottomans successful and powerful for a long time. It was only after the First World War, in 1923 to be precise, that the great empire, which was ruled from the center of Istanbul, ultimately collapsed and disappeared from the scene. But everything in turn. The year was 1301, when a man founded his own empire on the territory of present-day Turkey. This man was called Osman I, and he is a tribesman from Anatolia. Through conquests in the Byzantine Empire, the successor to the Roman Empire, he was able to decisively expand his sphere of influence and finally even capture the metropolis of Constantinople with his army in 1453. This success was synonymous with the rapid rise of the Ottoman Empire to a major regional power. Constantinople was renamed Istanbul and made the central city of Islam. However, the conquest of Constantinople did not quench the Ottomans' thirst for power. On the contrary, in the following century, Ottoman soldiers, also called Janissaries, led by Bayezid, Selim I, and Suleiman, conquered various surrounding territories. Whether Syria, the Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, or Palestine, soon all this belonged to the mighty Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire finally experienced its golden age during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, who ruled the empire from 1520 to 1566. He succeeded in conquering parts of Persia, Austria, and Russia. The Balkans were also subjugated by the military of the Ottoman Empire. In the southwest, the Ottoman Empire extended to Algeria at its peak in the 16th century. The Ottoman Empire not only excelled militarily, but also established itself as a trading power as its size grew. Istanbul's excellent location was particularly convenient for trade transactions all over the world. Whether with China in the Far East or with Venice in Italy, there were flourishing trade relations with the wealthy powers of the 16th century. Trade routes existed not only overland, but also across the Mediterranean, which was controlled by the Ottoman Navy. Last but not least, the Ottoman Empire gained control over the coveted coffee throughout the greater region by conquering Yemen. The Ottomans also set new standards culturally, some of which we still benefit from indirectly today. The heyday of the Ottoman Empire was also a time of art, literature, and music. In the natural sciences as well as the humanities, the Ottomans of the 16th century are also regarded as inventors of groundbreaking technology. Many of today's established surgical instruments are believed to have been developed by Ottoman scientists. Also famous is the Ottoman architect Sinan, who created many iconic buildings in the Middle East during Suleiman's reign. Moreover, unlike the European powers, some of which aggressively practiced Christianity, the Ottoman Empire was Muslim-based and relatively liberal. The special thing about the rule in the Ottoman Empire is certainly the fact that it was ruled by only one family for more than 6 centuries. But how did the sultans manage to keep their extremely large, multi-ethnic empire together so sovereignly? Part of the secret of success was surely the strong centralization on the capital Istanbul, which brought order and stability to the Ottoman Empire. The model of rule was an absolute monarchy with a distinct head, the Sultan, in the first place. Equally responsible for the Ottoman success was their uncompromising strategy of conquest with a strong army. Militarily, the Ottomans were feared worldwide, whether on land or on the high seas. But alongside all the light in which the Ottoman Empire shone in its heyday, the dark side soon became apparent. The decline of the Ottoman Empire was a gradual process that began centuries before its final collapse. Although the Ottomans experienced their most successful period under the rule of Suleiman, the first problems arose as early as the mid-16th century. Trade with India stagnated, technical development progressed only slowly, and internally, corruption, rebellions, and revolts caused unrest. In this manner, the Ottoman Empire was destabilized, and it was now vulnerable to attack from outside. Reforms came late and were unable to avert the problems that arose. This is precisely what the surrounding powers took advantage of. The decisive turning point was the naval battle of Lepanto in 1571. Against the combined forces of the European powers under the leadership of the Pope, the strong Ottomans were only the second victors. As a result, their influence in Europe dwindled bit by bit, since they were no longer an unchallenged power in the Mediterranean. And as if that was not enough, the so-called Young Turks from Imperial Turkey also began to rebel against the Ottoman Empire. The 17th century continued with several military defeats for the Ottoman Empire. The negative climax was the forced retreat from Vienna in 1683, which many historians consider the beginning of the end for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans maintained a brotherhood in arms with the German Empire. When the First World War broke out, the Ottoman Empire, by this time already not so influential, also entered the military conflict. On the side of the Germans, however, the Ottoman Empire lost and finally had to accept a bitter military defeat. The end of the First World War resulted in enormous territorial shifts in Europe and the Middle East. In the peace negotiations, a new order was negotiated, which was to create a balance of power. In 1923, the end of the Ottoman Empire, which had been looming for a long time, was officially sealed. A large part of the empire was divided between the victorious powers, France and Great Britain. The Republic of Turkey was formed as a successor state, which was led by its founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, for a total of 15 years. The cultural heritage of the Ottoman Empire is still carried on in today's Turkey. Finally, you are asked again, which fact about the Ottoman Empire did you not know, and which twist in history impressed you the most? Feel free to leave us a comment and subscribe to the channel to be regularly provided with exciting history videos in the future. See you next time.